My stepsister attempted to disrupt my wedding by claiming that my fiancé wanted to run away with her. In response, I contacted her husband and informed him of this, which ultimately led to their divorce. I recently married my fiancé, Noah, on February 25, 2023. My entire family was invited to the wedding, including my stepsister. Charlotte, aged 24, was born when I was 9 years old, and Charlotte was born when I was 8. My mother married her father, and we were fine with it at the time because we had already known each other for a couple of years and our parents had been together for almost 3 years before they got married. To be more accurate, we first met when I was 6 and she was 5. Our relationship was relatively amicable. I resided in a neighborhood with a limited number of children, and whenever Charlotte and her father would visit, I was delighted and we would have a wonderful time. As we grew older, our relationship continued to flourish. We maintained a cordial relationship and considered each other close friends until we reached middle school. It was not until we began high school that our relationship began to evolve. This development was not uncommon and, in retrospect, somewhat predictable. It was precipitated by a boy named Noah, to be precise. My father had been unfaithful to my mother with a friend of hers when my biological father was uninterested in me and my mother after I was born. He had been unfaithful to my mother with a friend of hers, and when he was caught, he signed away his rights and moved away with his girlfriend. They were never married, and she never saw him again. My grandparents were reasonably well off, so she decided that she did not want child support from him. Consequently, I never met my biological father and do not know him. My stepfather was the first father figure I had in my life. Charlotte's mother had unfortunately passed away when she was very young from multiple health issues, and the pregnancy had the legal proceedings that ensued following the dissolution of my parents' marriage resulted in my mother being awarded full custody of me, while my father's ex-partner was granted full custody of my sister. Consequently, when they began dating and subsequently moved in together, we spent a significant amount of time with each other. My sister was of a similar age to me, which was beneficial as it provided me with a constant companion. Charlotte and I were particularly close until we reached high school, as she had commenced her education at an earlier age than the norm. Despite being a year younger than me, we were in the same grade at school. We commenced high school together and shared numerous classes. Noah, his family having relocated to our town, was also a member of our social circle. The year was 1999, and he was the newest student in our high school. I took a liking to him almost instantly, and unfortunately, so did Charlotte. He was attractive and genuinely kind, and although both of us had dated other boys before, we were still young and inexperienced. It didn't really matter to me at the time. I could sense that Charlotte liked him, too. Given my feelings for him, I decided to speak with Charlotte about my attraction to Noah. We made a pact that neither of us would attempt to pursue him romantically or engage in any form of physical intimacy with him, out of respect for the other. We were both young teenagers, and we were interested in Noah as a potential romantic partner. We recognized that our feelings were not reciprocated, but we were determined to maintain our friendship. We were able to move on from our infatuation with Noah, but circumstances conspired against us. We had numerous classes together, and as a result, we became close friends. As I got to know him better, I found myself increasingly attracted to him. He embodied all the qualities I sought in a partner, but I was aware of my promise to Charlotte and remained true to it. Despite the fact that Noah attempted to engage in flirtatious behavior on numerous occasions, I consistently refrained from reciprocating because I was aware that it would be detrimental to Charlotte's well-being. We never discussed him at home or otherwise because we were cognizant of the sensitivity of the topic and were reluctant to bring it up with each other. The situation remained unchanged until our senior year, when the topic of prom dates was becoming increasingly prevalent. I was on the verge of accepting another individual's proposal when I was informed by Noah that Charlotte had requested his company at the prom. He confronted me privately, informing me that Charlotte had not only proposed a date, but also expressed romantic feelings for him. She had also confessed that she had feelings for him and wanted to be more than friends. I was shocked that she would do such a thing after promising me that she would never make a move on him and telling me to do the same. It was simply unacceptable, and I was hurt by it. However, I also felt a sense of betrayal. He informed me that he had rejected her advances because he did not perceive her as anything more than a platonic friend. Despite his awareness that she had been attempting to pursue a romantic relationship with him, he had never reciprocated. He disclosed that, over the past few years, since he had joined the school and become friends with us, Charlotte had been she attempted to engage in flirtatious behavior and exhibited a different demeanor when they were alone together. He sensed her attraction, yet he did not pursue a romantic relationship. His decision not to act upon these feelings was influenced by his affection for me. He chose to reveal this information to me because, despite his attraction to me, he had never reciprocated my interest. Despite his attraction to me and his attempts to initiate flirtation, I consistently maintained a lack of reciprocation and demonstrated no interest in him. As our senior year drew to a close and we prepared to embark on separate paths at college, he felt compelled to seek clarity on the prospect of a romantic relationship. He informed me that I could either provide him with a definitive response and indicate whether I reciprocated his feelings, or decline to do so. In the event that I did not express interest, he would be aware of my stance and would consider asking other girls to the prom. I distinctly recall that day, as it marked a pivotal moment following our conversation. I was profoundly affected by the turn of events. I was disoriented because I was processing a great deal of information. Not only had he informed me that he had liked me for a considerable length of time, but he had also revealed that Charlotte had been attempting to flirt with him persistently, despite her previous assurance that she would not jeopardize our friendship. This information was hurtful to me because I had considered her to be nothing less than my sister. I had always considered Charlotte to be nothing less than my sister. Consequently, after Noah had cornered me on the day in question and told me everything, I informed him that I needed a day to think and sleep on it. I would have an answer for him by the next day. However, I was unsure what to tell him because everything hinged on the conversation I would have with Charlotte once I got home. I decided to skip the rest of the classes and head home because I was reluctant to walk home with her. I was experiencing a profound sense of unease after learning the truth. Once I got home, I waited for her. When she returned, she was remarkably casual about everything. She acted as if nothing had occurred. She did not mention Noah or the fact that she had asked him out, despite the numerous promises that we had made to each other. I therefore initiated a discussion and attempted to ascertain the truth of the matter. I asked her whether it was true that she had asked Noah out for the prom. She then confessed her feelings, prompting a defensive reaction. She asserted that it was none of my business, citing that it was between Noah and her. However, I perceived it as a significant issue because she had promised me that she would not pursue such a course of action and had made me promise that I would not attempt to influence her. I had been suppressing my feelings for him for an extended period of time, while she had been making advances towards him. This was an unfair situation, as I had genuinely developed feelings for Noah. I believe that I was in love with him by that point. It was challenging for me to continue ignoring his advances. His advances were motivated by the desire to preserve our relationship with Charlotte. I was reluctant to cause her distress and had prioritized her feelings over my own. However, I discovered that she was not willing to reciprocate my consideration. Consequently, when I confronted her, we engaged in a heated dispute. This experience led me to conclude that I would pursue a romantic relationship with Noah. It was evident to me that Charlotte was indifferent to my feelings. I saw no reason to continue prioritizing her feelings over mine, given that she had essentially informed me during the fight that she had wanted to spare my feelings by making that promise because she was aware that, should the situation arise, Noah would undoubtedly choose her over me. Given this, it was evident that Noah would undoubtedly choose her over me. Her assertion was, in my estimation, both presumptuous and unacceptable. I was, therefore, compelled to sever all ties with her. Her betrayal had been so profound that I was unable to continue our relationship. The following day, I informed Noah of the circumstances surrounding the promise that Charlotte and I had made to each other during the altercation. He was very understanding about the previous day's events and informed me that he was prepared to wait for me if it took me longer to come around. However, I informed him that I was in love with him and could no longer deny it. Consequently, we began dating on the very same day, and it has been 7 years since then. I have no regrets. It was necessary to sever ties with Charlotte, and we did not communicate with her again after that day. It was a more straightforward decision for him, but it was a different experience for me because I had been living with her. We had previously shared a room, but after our altercation and my subsequent relationship with Noah, she relocated to the basement. We were permitted to reside separately, and I had no objections to this arrangement. Our parents inquired on numerous occasions about the nature of the conflict, but I did not inform them of the specifics, and I believe Charlotte did not either. We simply ceased communication with each other following that day. Initially, it was challenging, but we eventually adapted. Noah and I eventually, given that Charlotte had selected a college that was located across the country, I was no longer required to interact with her on a regular basis. We only encountered each other during the holidays after we had graduated from college. Noah and I continued to enjoy a strong relationship, and Charlotte had also started dating a fellow student from her college. As we all began to pursue our careers, our conflict seemed to emulate the dynamics of a typical high school television show, as it had become trivial and insignificant. Despite this, Charlotte and I would occasionally interact at family gatherings. However, we never consciously made an effort to initiate communication with each other in the same way that we had previously. As they grew up, Charlotte and I began to interact more frequently. We initiated small talk and discussed topics that were safe for family members. Despite this, we did not engage in deeper conversations. However, as we matured into adulthood, our relationship evolved. Last year, Charlotte announced her engagement to her college boyfriend. I extended my congratulations, and the interaction was formal. She expressed her desire for my presence at the wedding, which was somewhat bittersweet. When we were younger, we often engaged in make-believe weddings, with Charlotte playing the role of my maid of honor. At the wedding, I was merely a guest. Consequently, I was gratified that we were finally acting like adults and repairing the damage. However, I was also somewhat disconcerted that things would never revert to the way they were. We had been on speaking terms since then, and she appeared to be reconciled with Noah. Nevertheless, I had the good sense not to bring him as my +1 to the wedding, as it would have been both inappropriate and insensitive. Despite her having fully moved on and been engaged to someone else, she was perceptive enough to pick up on my omission. When we were conversing and socializing after the ceremony, she informed me that I could have brought Noah along with me because she had moved on and no longer cared about the matter. However, I should not have relied on her word, as recent events demonstrated that she had not in fact moved on at all. A couple of months ago, he was still a significant source of distress. Noah proposed to me, and I accepted because the timing was optimal. He had recently been promoted at work, and I had resigned from my position to join my friend in her startup venture, both of which were positive developments. I was anticipating a reduction in stress. The engagement was free of any significant drama. Despite the lack of a formal ceremony, I had assumed that I could invite Charlotte to the wedding without causing any issues. After all, she had congratulated me on my engagement and seemed to accept the invitation. However, a week before the wedding, Charlotte informed me that she was going to make a last-ditch effort to ruin my relationship with Noah. The wedding was to take place in a hotel a short distance from our home. Most of our close friends and family members were residing at the hotel with us. The two of us, along with our parents, bridesmaids, and groomsmen, arrived 2 days prior to the wedding. Other family members and friends, as well as people coming from out of town, reached the hotel 1 day prior to the wedding. Charlotte and her husband were scheduled to arrive at the venue 1 day prior to the wedding, but they arrived on the same day as us. This caused some confusion, but they appeared to be unaware of the mistake. It was an honest mistake, and luckily or perhaps unluckily, the hotel did have some vacant rooms, so it worked out for them. I genuinely believe that Charlotte had made a mistake and didn't think much of it because I had no idea what she had up her sleeve. However, on the day of my wedding, I finally understood what she was trying to do. I was getting my makeup done and other preparations made when I noticed her constantly looking outside my room. I thought that it was a bit strange because it was assumed that the guests would either be in their rooms or engaged in leisure activities. After all, the majority of the hotel had been booked, and the guests were free to do as they pleased until the ceremony commenced. Therefore, it was somewhat peculiar for her to leave the premises and linger outside my room. This was particularly noteworthy since she was neither a bridesmaid nor my mother. Once I was ready, my bridesmaids and mother proceeded to their rooms to prepare for the ceremony. There was only one. An hour before the ceremony was scheduled to commence, I reasoned that we would have sufficient time to reach the venue on schedule. I therefore decided to take a brief walk down the corridor outside my room to calm my nerves. However, I was unable to leave the floor or go elsewhere because I was concerned that I might be seen in my wedding dress by other guests. At that moment, Charlotte approached me outside my room and pulled me aside. Aside from the fact that she wanted to discuss a matter of great importance to me, I was unaware of the nature of this discussion. Despite the fact that Charlotte and I had been on speaking terms, we had not engaged in any intimate or personal conversations. This was somewhat unusual, but I allowed her to speak to me out of a sense of curiosity. She then informed me that she had arrived at the hotel a day earlier than scheduled, not by chance but by design. Noah had requested this, she said. She informed me that she had come only because he had asked her to, but she was unsure of the reason why he had asked her to come earlier. She then proceeded to tell me a fabricated story about how Noah had contacted her around 2 weeks before the wedding, stating that he was experiencing feelings of doubt and uncertainty about the marriage. He expressed concern that he was making a mistake by marrying me, as it had taken him a long time to come to terms with the fact that he was no longer in love with me. She stated that they had been in communication behind my back for an extended period, though it had been purely platonic. However, he had developed feelings for her and had urged her to visit earlier so that they could flee together. He had been pressuring her to agree to his reckless plan since she had arrived at the hotel, as he lacked the courage to speak with me directly. He feared that I might act irrationally and was reluctant to be held accountable. I was not present for the event in question, nor was I aware of it until Charlotte informed me of it. She believed that she had to be honest with me, so she chose the hour before my wedding to come clean about this significant matter. I was aware that she was lying about the details of the incident because I had faith in Noah and knew that he would never do something like this to me. He was a straightforward and honest person. He was a straightforward and candid individual, and if he had something to say, he would simply communicate it to my face, rather than resorting to subterfuge. Unlike Charlotte, he was not a coward who sought to evade challenges. This narrative, which she presented to me, appeared incongruous with his character. This realization enabled me to discern that she was lying. Her actions were particularly infuriating because she attempted to portray her concerns as genuine, expressing worry about my well-being and the stability of my relationship. I was aware that she was actively attempting to. I decided to create further drama by contacting her husband directly, despite the lack of his contact details. I had been following him on Instagram, which enabled me to place the call without his knowledge. I pretended to be devastated, and I was positioned in front of Charlotte so that she could not see what I was doing on my phone. However, she did not stop me, as she assumed that I was likely to call Noah and confront him. She was contemplating whether to end the relationship or not, but she was unsure of how to proceed. She had no idea that I was actually calling her husband, who was in another part of the hotel. Fortunately, he answered my call. I repeated everything that Charlotte had said to me before asking if that was true. She remained silent, seemingly still contemplating whether it was Noah that I was on the phone with. I am unaware of her intentions, as I have not yet had the opportunity to review their texts and emails. I was unable to ascertain her true intentions, but after concluding my conversation, I decided to utilize the speaker function on my phone to enable Charlotte to hear her husband's response. To my surprise, her husband was visibly taken aback by the revelation and stated that he would return to his room immediately. Upon hearing her husband's voice on the phone instead of Noah's, Charlotte became visibly distressed and began shouting at me. She accused me of attempting to sabotage her marriage, and I informed her that I was doing precisely what she was attempting to do to me. I then retreated to my room, where I informed my bridesmaids of the situation and instructed them to ensure that she did not attend the wedding or ceremony. I expressed my lack of trust in her and desire for her absence. The ceremony proceeded without incident, and Charlotte did not attempt to disrupt it. It is possible that she was attempting to disrupt the proceedings by arriving late, as she was evidently preoccupied with resolving the issue with her husband following her misdemeanor. It is noteworthy that no one at the wedding, with the exception of our parents, noticed her absence. After the ceremony, our parents inquired about her whereabouts. I informed them that I would reveal the information at a later time, but I had no intention of disclosing it to them, as I deemed it irrelevant. Once the wedding concluded, I contacted the hotel authorities to inquire about the whereabouts of Charlotte's room. They informed me that she had checked out during the wedding and that they were no longer occupying the room. No one brought up the incident in the aftermath of the wedding, which I was grateful for because I wanted to enjoy being a newlywed without having to discuss Charlotte and her misguided actions. I did inform Noah about it, and we had a good laugh afterwards. However, that was the extent of the information available. 2 days ago, we learned that Charlotte and her husband were separating. Our parents informed us of this development. They explained that Charlotte's husband had contacted them and expressed his displeasure with her behavior. He demanded that they come and retrieve her, as she had refused to leave their residence. He threatened to involve the police if she did not comply. They proceeded to pick her up, and upon learning of the impending separation, discovered that her husband had found it highly insulting that Charlotte had reached the wedding venue ahead of schedule, intending to disrupt the proceedings. He had been privy to the entire narrative for some time, having been repeatedly informed by Charlotte's acquaintances of Noah's exceptional qualities and Charlotte's supposed incompatibility with him. This information had finally reached its limit. It was evident that she still held feelings for him, which prompted her actions to disrupt the wedding. This was the final straw for him, leading him to conclude that the marriage was untenable. Despite her insistence, he could no longer deny his feelings for someone else. Consequently, they have decided to divorce. My parents, however, believe that this is my fault. My parents believe that I am responsible for the dissolution of the marriage. They contend that despite Charlotte's efforts, I should have kept her and her husband out of it. They believe that by involving him and calling him names, I had ruined her marriage. Consequently, they expect me to apologize to her and refuse to speak with me. I do not understand how I am to blame for this. I did not ask Charlotte to do anything. I am not psychotic. I merely struck her where it hurt because she had previously attempted to do the same to me. It is unfair to hold this against me. She has ruined her own marriage, and I had nothing to do with it. Noah also feels the same way, but my parents and a great many of our mutual friends with Charlotte are on her side. This is causing me considerable distress. Ida, for involving my stepsister's husband when she attempted to sabotage my wedding. My wedding, on purpose, by lying about my husband. I would like to begin by thanking all those who commented on my original post and assured me that I was not in the wrong. Their words helped me to realize how unfair my parents and a couple of my friends were being, and so I decided to cut them off. I do not see any other way out of this situation, because if I do not cut ties with them, they will. If they continue to blame me for the situation and make me feel bad about it, at some point I will crack. I do not want to crack and apologize to Charlotte. Therefore, it is for the best if I cut everybody off. My parents were the ones who were refusing to talk to me because I was not ready to apologize to Charlotte. Now they have what they want, and I am not talking to them either. As for my friends, if it is likely that they will take Charlotte's side on this matter and portray me as the antagonist. If this is the case, I am content to be regarded as the antagonist. It has become evident that they were never my true friends. It is evident that Charlotte is the primary perpetrator of this situation, and if anything, she is the one who owes me an apology. They may continue to deny this, but the facts remain unchanged. Furthermore, I am not interested in changing the facts. It is not my intention to change anyone's mind. Everyone is entitled to believe what they wish. My sole desire is to spend time with Noah, and that is all. I would like to provide an update. Noah and I have departed for our honeymoon. It has been approximately 2 weeks since the wedding, and I have yet to speak with my parents or friends. I have not been affected as deeply by this lack of communication as I anticipated. I have my husband now, and if I am being honest, I was not particularly close to those individuals anyway. Therefore, this lack of communication does not cause me significant distress. It is a significant difference for me, but I am unable to communicate with my parents. This is a source of considerable frustration. I frequently find myself wanting to text my mother and engage in conversation with her, or to call my stepfather and engage in a light-hearted discussion with him. However, I am aware that this is not possible due to the fact that they have chosen to align themselves with Charlotte's perspective on this matter. Based on my understanding, Charlotte is residing with them and is likely disseminating false information about me in an attempt to influence them against me. Upon my return, it is likely that my parents will hold negative sentiments towards me. I can comprehend that my stepfather wishes to be supportive of his daughter, but I am perplexed as to why my mother is not advocating for me in this situation. She was previously cheated on by my father, who subsequently left us to be with someone she considered a friend. This parallels the actions of Charlotte, who attempted to exploit the situation to gain sole custody of Noah. I feel that my mother of all people, she should at least understand why I was upset with her and why I acted as I did. However, if she does not comprehend my perspective and believes that I am the antagonist in this situation, I am at a loss for words. Nevertheless, I am currently on my honeymoon with Noah, and I am hopeful that this will help to alleviate my distress and allow me to move on from these issues. On the third day of my honeymoon, I received a text message from my mother. However, I did not open it. I will open it upon my return home, as I wish to fully experience the present moment. Noah and I are currently enjoying a wonderful time together. Should this message be perceived as inappropriate, I would like to experience the disappointment at a later time. I recognize that this may seem unusual, but I am genuinely striving to savor this experience, as one's honeymoon is a singular opportunity. I have now reached update 4, and I am back home. Upon landing, I immediately checked my mother's message, which informed me that my mother informed me that she had permitted Charlotte to reside with my stepfather for a brief period. However, this arrangement proved untenable due to Charlotte's incessant criticism of me. My stepfather and mother eventually concluded that Charlotte's actions had irreparably damaged my wedding. Consequently, they decided to evict her. This weekend, they extended an invitation for me to join them for dinner. Their intention was to express their regret and make amends for their actions. Charlotte was undergoing a divorce, which seemed to be a more significant event to them at the time. They were uncertain how to address her emotional state and made some misguided decisions. However, they have since realized their mistakes and are seeking to make amends. I am genuinely pleased in Noah, and I have already agreed to attend the dinner. This will help to repair our relationship. I hope that we will not experience further conflict.